awkward on this computer. Okay. So I just now hit the record button. I hope that's okay with everybody. Anyway, oh good, okay. So it's so great to see you guys all here today. We still have some people joining us. Today, the first and third Wednesday of every month, I come to you guys at 4 p.m. Central Time to teach something, you know, just something that I like, something that someone has taught me and that I like to share with people. So far we've made sauerkraut, you know, we've made the perfect cup of tea, and today we're going to be making fire cider, and I'll tell you all about what that is. Now, actually something changed right now, so just listen just for 1 second. If you have any questions, now, if you just have comments, you can put it in my chat. But if you have questions, send them to my husband, Luke Black Elk. He's one of the participants on here. Send him your questions so he can read them out loud. I don't know why I can't co-host him, but that's just the way it's working today. Or just put it in my chat and I'll still, I'll read it out loud, but I just don't want to miss your questions. Okay, it's so great to have you guys here. Now, what is fire cider and why are we making it? Fire cider is an amazing medicinal and even culinary preparation. Check out this beautiful jar of fire cider. This is 2 quarts, 2-quart jar that I put together over 3 weeks ago. Okay, fire cider, like I said, is a medicine, but it's also a food, a culinary ingredient. It is a very spicy apple cider vinegar. And as you'll see today, we add various ingredients. We layer them in the jar. You don't have to layer them. You don't have to make it pretty. It's just, I like the way it looks. It's really fantastic. We layer all of these ingredients in a jar. Then we pour apple cider vinegar over it. And today I'll finish this batch up. I'll show you how to strain it and add honey to it for the final product, okay? Why do we make fire cider? If you Google the term fire cider, you'll get 1,000 different recipes made by 1,000 different people. It's a really old preparation with both traditional and more contemporary ingredients. You can see the lemon there, although citrus is traditional for indigenous peoples in North America. So is pretty much every ingredient in here, and we'll talk about that too. But fire cider is great for so many things. And you, like I said, you can Google this, but I'll tell you, I have personally lowered the blood pressure of a couple hundred people just using fire cider. Now I do use other things for blood pressure as well, like hawthorn, but fire cider is wonderful for lowering blood pressure. I've also used it for people who have acid reflux, heartburn. Some folks think that heartburn, acid reflux is caused by too much acid, but in a certain percentage of cases, it's actually from not enough acid, and a little bit of apple cider vinegar every day can really help. I also use it for as an antiviral, because there's a lot of really amazing antiviral herbs in fire cider. It's wonderful to thin mucus, so I use it to treat congestion. Okay, so I'm listing off all of the things, you know, the congestion, the high blood pressure, even sinus infections and sinus issues, you know, when you just have those really stuffed up sinuses, fire cider is fantastic. You know, and even Western physicians know that. So I had this one friend who was a physician down in Mobridge, South Dakota. And anytime someone would come in with a sinus infection, he would tell them to drink a teaspoon of Tabasco. And what is Tabasco but sort of a fire cider, right? I mean, it's hot chilies and vinegar, basically. So, you know, it really is very similar. But if you guys have any questions, let me know. Now, I also want to say that if there are any ingredients in here that you don't like, don't put them in there, right? Why do we overcomplicate traditional medicine all the time? Why do we complicate cooking? If there's any ingredient in here that you don't like, if you're not a fan of horseradish, don't add it. Oh, speaking of, can you grab the vegetable peeler for me real quick? Something I forgot. If you aren't a fan of super spicy hot chilies, don't add super spicy hot chilies. Put a green pepper in there, a sweet bell pepper if you want. It still has a little bit of those medicinal properties in there. If you're not a big fan of the flavor of garlic, don't put it in there or put less, right? Really make this your own. And that's why I said everyone has their own idea in their own recipe for fire cider. I have a friend who does not like spicy food at all. And she just does apple cider vinegar and turmeric. That's it. Apple cider vinegar and turmeric is all she does. And it's still a wonderful anti-inflammatory. Oh, that's one medicinal property I forgot to say. Fire cider is also very anti-inflammatory, right? If apple cider vinegar by itself is already a good medicine. And of course, it is a fermented product, of course, using, it's a different kind of fermentation than, say, sauerkraut, but it is a fermented product. So it is good for your gut microbiome as well, okay? Now, if you're trying to ferment sauerkraut or make kimchi, you don't ever want to add vinegar because that actually kills the kind of bacteria you're trying to grow in there. But yeah, if you have questions about that, let me know. So yeah, make it your own, okay? Do what you like. Make it to your own tastes, okay? All right, so let's get started making that, and in a little bit we'll making fire cider, and in a little bit we'll strain that and add the honey, and I'll show you how to do that. Now let's talk ingredients here. Okay, you are basically making a vinegar infusion. You're kind of making an oxymel, right? That's what they call a vinegar infusion with honey added these days. Fancy term, they call it an oxymel. So if you've heard of an oxymel before, now you know. So let's talk ingredients. It's important, in my opinion, for your fire cider ingredients, because you're making an infusion and you're pulling all this stuff out and you're leaving stuff in an acid for a long time, you want to be careful to use organic ingredients as much as possible, okay? I'm really lucky, like I couldn't find any organic ginger, so a friend of mine sent me some organic ginger, and this ginger just happens to have still some of the plant attached. I'll show you what to do with that in a little bit. I'm lucky because I have friends and they sent me some beautiful horseradish, okay? So we have ginger, organic ginger, we have organic horseradish, we have organic chilies. Let's talk chilies for a second, okay? I know we call them peppers. Peppers? No, this is pepper, right? Black peppercorns, that's pepper. These are chilies. That's a botanist thing, so forgive me, but I'll call these peppers too. This, I think, someone sent me these as well, and I'm pretty sure these are ghost chilies. Earlier, about half hour ago, 40 minutes ago, I cut one open, cut one in half, and I put my tongue on it, just real quick, and it still burns. Okay, that was like 40 minutes ago. So I'm gonna use one of these in one of my jars of fire cider. Oh, by the way, I'm starting with quart jars, okay? So if you guys are gonna make it along with me, quart jar, okay? Barb is asking if dried chilies would work. Check this out, Barb. I have a bunch of dried chilies here with me because I use those too. These are dried Thai chilies. What I do is, like, when you buy the bag of Thai chilies or a bag of chilies from the store, I just take the leftovers and dry them on a cookie sheet, on top of your fridge or on the kitchen counter, wherever, because I know that later on I'll use those dried chilies in my fire cider. There's no need to waste things in your fridge, okay? Anything that you have, in your fridge, whether it's, broccoli or kale or whatever, if you think, oh man, I'm not gonna get to eat that, dry it, okay? Put it in the dehydrator or put it on a cookie sheet. Do not waste your veggies, okay? Because, and especially like with stuff like chilies, look at this, guys. These are dried chilies that I have collected over time because I use these in my fire cider. And I have all different kinds in here, I have some of them are still drying, but these were a type of red jalapeno, Thai chilies, of course, like I said. I have some drying and dried serranos in here. So, don't waste them. Keep them all. Just put them in a colander or on a cookie sheet and let them dry. So yes, I do use a combination of dried and fresh chilies in my fire cider. It is totally personal preference. If you can't handle things that are very hot, use a fresh jalapeno, right? This jalapeno is just not going to be all that hot, for me at least. But, you know, a lot of you guys know I'm half Asian and I grew up with a lot of spicy food, so I can handle it. But if you did not and you're not used to it, or your tummy can't handle it, you don't have to use things that are super spicy, okay? But I am gonna use a ghost chili today, okay? Yep, so Distance is asking, to dry peppers, can you just throw them in a colander? Literally, that's what I did. These have been sitting in here for a few weeks now, and you can see some of them are completely dried. I could even powder those if I wanted. Some of, you know, I kind of layer them. I threw some green Thai chilies that I had left over, so some of the Thai chilies aren't even all dry yet. I just throw them in there and let them sit on my kitchen counter. If you live in a really humid place, you might not be able to do that. But I live in, you know, North Dakota, where it's super dry, so everything dries really quickly. Okay, so when it comes to the chilies, use whatever chili you want, or leave it out altogether if you don't like spice. Okay, so we have the fresh ginger, we have the horseradish, we have our chilies, we have onions, any kind of onion. I don't care if it's a green onion, if that's your preference. I went ahead and peeled a red onion, you know, or, you know, you can use a yellow skinned onion. Whatever onion you're using, save the peel on the outside, and you can use that as a dye. If you guys have tons of leftover onion skins, save your onion skins. If you don't want them, send them to me, because I use them to dye porcupine quills and all kinds of stuff. So my husband's shaking his head like, please don't tell people to send you their onion skins. But, yes, you can. Okay, so you know, I usually use in a quart-sized jar. I chop up about one big onion. Okay, you don't like onion, use less, or don't use it at all. Okay, one medium size, maybe medium size. Call that a medium-sized onion. I use for a quart-sized jar, I use about one or two big thumbs. Okay, when I say a thumb, I mean about thumb size. I use about one or two big thumbs of ginger. I use about one or two thumbs of horseradish. Okay, I use, depending on the chili and the heat I want, that's totally personal preference. Okay, normally I use at least one or two chopped jalapenos. Okay, I use one or two thumbs of turmeric root. Do you guys know turmeric? Turmeric's a wonderful anti-inflammatory. It's also a wonderful dye all by itself, and you'll see how yellow my hands get. See, I chopped this one in half. You'll see how yellow my hands get by the end of this, okay? So I use about one or two thumbs of that. I use a lot of garlic in my fire cider. I have it pre-peeled here. Oops. I have it pre-peeled here. Per quart-sized jar, I probably use about 10 or 15 cloves of garlic, okay? Chopped. I use one lemon. I try to get the organic lemons because I use the peel as well, okay? You can unpeel it if you want, but why, okay? I use, I'll show you an easy way to peel garlic later too. I use, and by the way, someone sent me some gorgeous bundles of fresh thyme. So I'm gonna throw some thyme in here. Thyme is not just a beautiful culinary herb, it's also wonderfully antiviral, it's anti-inflammatory, it's delicious. So I'm gonna throw some thyme in there. And I also have an abundance of dried rosemary, okay? Someone sent me a huge bag of dried rosemary, and I also had some from my garden. So I'm using a ton of dried rosemary. You can use fresh if you have fresh, okay? Again, per quart-sized jar, I use one lemon. That's answering a question in the chat, okay? And I also use probably a tablespoon per quart-sized jar. I use about a tablespoon of black peppercorns, okay? So I'm gonna go over those ingredients again. Horseradish, ginger, hot chilies, garlic, onion, turmeric, black peppercorns, thyme, rosemary, those are optional, and lemon, okay? Now, if you guys make it a different way, or if you add some other ingredients, I have friends who add powdered cayenne instead of fresh chilies. I have friends who add, oh my gosh, you guys, a few months ago, I made choke cherry fire cider where I added choke cherry juice. Choke cherries are wonderful for lung support. And so I added fresh choke cherry juice to my fire cider and it was fantastic. It added kind of a berry sweetness to it. You can do the same thing with elderberry juice. Like if you want to make an elderberry fire cider as an immune booster, fantastic. So my friend Annette is asking, my colleague Annette is asking where I got the fresh turmeric root. This fresh turmeric root came from the co-op right here in Bismarck. They don't always have it, but they do sometimes, okay? And that's where this came from a little while ago. I try to stock up on it. And Annette, since we work together, if you need some, I have some. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started with some chopping just so you guys can see how I layer it in the jar. And you know, if you guys are you know, have some ingredients, you should chop along with me because it's very cathartic and kind of fun. Annette, my friend Rose is saying that Natural Grocer has some fresh turmeric. When I was in there a couple weeks ago, they were out, but they told me they were getting some back in. So I bet they've gotten some back in. All right, let's talk about horseradish for a second. Someone sent me this beautiful horseradish. It's still soft. They sent it with the crown, and I love them for that because you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna cut that crown off, and I'm gonna put this in a cup of water, and in about a week, it'll root out. Then I plant it in a bucket, and next spring, I'll plant this horseradish outside. And I can't tell you how many plots of horseradish I've grown doing that. Now, horseradish can get kind of invasive in some places, so be a little careful about where you're planting it. Make sure you're not planting it somewhere where it will go completely crazy because it will spread. But horseradish is such a great culinary plant to have around, and it's so medicinal. It's so good for your lungs, so good in clearing and cleansing. So I just love horseradish, right? So I'm gonna keep these crowns and I'm gonna grow those out. And maybe in a future workshop, I'll show you guys my little horseradish plants. Then one of the easiest ways to use horseradish, now you don't have to peel this. You don't have to. I scrubbed it off, all the dirt off with a brush. You don't have to, but if you want to, a vegetable peeler is by far the easiest way to peel horseradish. So I'll show you guys. Check that out, right? Super simple, easiest way to peel horseradish by far, okay? And you know, when you're doing this, you know, you have your hands on the medicine, right? Something that I want to say is try to do this, you know, make sure that you are doing this with a good heart, okay? Like with a happy heart. Because if you make medicine for people and you're all angry and crabby and like you're mad, it can pass that anger off into the medicine, okay? So try to be in a good mood. You know, we all kind of need a little bit of happiness today, I think, and you know, making medicine, there's no better way to get happy than to make medicine. So I'm just gonna show you guys how I chop the horseradish. Some folks really like it to be tiny. I don't necessarily need that. So I just do a quick chop on my horseradish. And then if you want, you can actually run your knife back through if you wanna make it a little smaller. See that? Okay, that's all you have to do. It doesn't have to be pretty, right? So you just take your quart-sized jar. I'm actually gonna add my black peppercorns first because I like the way they look when they're on the bottom. And you can see I'm measuring so carefully, right? Not. Then I'm gonna take my thumb or two of horseradish and add that to the jar. So it's already a pretty layer. Right? You know, that doesn't look like enough horseradish for me. I really like a lot. So I'm just gonna add a little more in there. Here's another small horseradish root. Not even gonna peel it. I washed it off really good with a brush and you know, it's not gonna hurt anything. Yeah, and make sure that if you're gonna leave the peeling on anything that you can trust where you got it from, right? Okay, that's better. That's enough horseradish in there for me. Okay, now I'm gonna add my turmeric. So this is about, you know, a good big thumb size or two of turmeric. And I'm not gonna peel that either. There's just no reason to. It's organic turmeric. So I'm gonna chop that up. Did you guys know it's really easy to grow turmeric at home in a bucket? Super simple. Okay, now that turmeric is pretty finely chopped, okay? So Sam is saying that Azure Standard, which is a shipping, I've gotten stuff through Azure Standard before, often has, why can't I, oh, okay. Azure Standard often has, lets you order online, and it has refrigerated trucks. You get fresh turmeric, you can get fresh ginger and horseradish. Yep, I've actually ordered some organic ingredients through them before, through Azure Standard. You can look them up online. Okay, so I have my quart-sized jar, and I'm gonna add, oh, Barb, are you making fire cider along with me? Love you. That's so awesome, girl. Okay, so I'm gonna add my beautiful turmeric into there. Doesn't have to be, look how beautiful that already is. It doesn't have to be a perfect chop, you know? You guys know I love to cook, and I cook all the time. And you know, I just don't think that we have to be snobby about it or anything, I guess. I'm sorry, that's not a word, but it's not a nice word to use. But you know, learning how to chop well, like you guys, you know, you can watch me. You can tell I'm an experienced chopper in the kitchen, and it's important to be able to know how to have knife skills. Like, it's something that I try to teach my kids, and it's something that I hope you guys will all learn and teach your kids, because you don't want to cut your fingers when you're doing a lot of chopping. Plus, I don't know, there's just something so nice about being able to chop things well, you know, and get some even slices, but it doesn't have to be beautiful. Here I am chopping my ginger. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. Oh, that ginger actually had a little bit of mud on it. Hey, hon, do you want to come wash these ginger slices for me? Okay. We don't want dirt in our fire cider. It won't hurt anything, but I don't like, when I take fire cider, I don't like it to be gritty. Okay. Oh, by the way, I'm doing a bunch of chopping, but I was just talking to a friend today. She might be on here. Hi, Heather. I see you. A couple of my students are on here. It's awesome. One of my friends, she puts all of her ingredients into a food processor and blends it up, and then pours her vinegar on top of the puree and leaves it like that. She doesn't even strain it. She eats it by the spoonful. Can you imagine? No, I'm sure that's great, but I don't like the texture of that, and I bet it's great for her. You know what I mean? I bet it's awesome. It's not my thing. All right. But you can do that. And if you want to make a really, really, thank you, dear. So my husband, that sliced ginger, you can chop it even finer than this. My husband went and washed it off. I'm going to put that into my quart jar. So again, I have the black peppercorns, horseradish, turmeric, ginger. Okay. Did you guys see that I took the crowns off of the ginger as well? I'm gonna root those out and grow ginger right here in my house as well in North Dakota, okay? They're beautiful plants, by the way. Okay, can you grab that bucket over there? I wanna show you guys, I showed the group a couple weeks ago if you guys were on here, but like I brought back one piece of turmeric from Hawaii and we planted it in a bucket. And this is my turmeric plant. And so you can actually get beautiful, this turmeric, we already harvested the root, that's why that one's dead. But look at that, it's so fun. And this is like fresh organic turmeric that I'm growing right here in my house. This little tree over here, our son put an avocado pit into this bucket. And we're growing an avocado tree now. So, you know, you can, there's no need to waste stuff or throw it away. I mean, it's really fun to do that stuff. Our kids are fascinated that we're growing these tropical plants in buckets in our kitchen, in our dining room. Okay, now I'm gonna chop the chili, okay? And this is a ghost pepper. Can you guys tell I'm a little scared? So what I wanna say is you can wear gloves, okay? If you're worried about it, you're worried later you might touch your eyes, put on some gloves, okay? Don't freak out about it. But I'm gonna try not to touch my fingers to my eyes. I'm just gonna go ahead and do this. Give it a rough chop. Put it in there whole if you want. You don't have to chop the chili up if you don't want. But remember, the finer you chop things, the stronger they're gonna be. So if you chop this chili really fine, it's, you know, and expose all of those veins and seeds, it's gonna be even hotter. Woo, if you guys could smell that, it is, even the smell is deadly, okay? So I'm putting my ghost pepper into here. I'm also, just, you know, because I'm that kind of person, I'm gonna put a few whole Thai chilies in there as well, okay? Just because I like it. Now I'm gonna chop up some garlic. So clear off my cutting board a little bit here. I'm gonna get, so per, by the time I'm done with this jar, by the time I'm done, it's gonna be full of ingredients, and I'm gonna pour apple cider vinegar over top. But you don't have to. If you don't like stuff, put less of the amount in there and it'll be fine, okay? So I'm just gonna do a rough chop on this garlic. You can do it as fine or as, you know, big as you want. If you wanna add whole cloves of garlic, you can absolutely do that. It just won't be as strong, right? You're exposing, by chopping it, we're exposing more surface area of the garlic, okay? So, you know, that's pretty good. I'm gonna add that on top of my chilies, my beautiful fresh garlic that was actually grown right here in North Dakota by my colleague, Lindsay, right at the gardens at United Tribes. Check that out, beautiful. Okay, and you can add more or less garlic if you want. I'm also going to add now my onion, okay? So I'm gonna do about 1 medium onion in a quart-sized jar, and however you wanna chop it, you do that, okay? Whatever size, I suppose, but just don't cut yourself. Is this like watching a cooking show? I've always wondered. Okay. Yes, Barb, I did add peppercorns to the bottom and then chilies later. I did. Okay, so I'm adding my chopped onion in here. It doesn't matter the order at all, okay? I just, you know, sometimes I like to vary the color up a little bit, so I layer it by color. You know what? Check that out. That's plenty. I'm just gonna add half an onion today, about half an onion, okay? That ended up being a pretty big onion, so I'm just gonna add about half. I'm gonna throw my thyme on there. See those thyme sprigs? I'm just gonna put some of that in there. You don't have to. If you don't have any thyme, don't do it. I'm gonna add some dried rosemary on top of the thyme. Gosh, that smells incredible, you guys. And now I'm gonna cut up my lemon. Am I missing anything? I don't think so. Okay, I'm gonna cut up my lemon. I'm gonna cut the ends off just because I think it's prettier. Now, you can see in the fire cider that I made a few weeks ago, I did, and my friend Keely Purcell, she's Ho-Chunk, and she actually puts the lemons flat on the top as a cap to hold all the ingredients under the vinegar. And I love that idea. You can, if you don't like that, you can chop the lemons instead of doing slices, but I'm just gonna do lemon slices. I'm gonna kind of do them a little bit thin. Keela is I hope I'm saying your name right, is asking what my favorite chilies to use are. So that depends. If I'm making this for elders, I usually use jalapenos because they're just not all that hot. But if I'm making it for my family, we really like hot and spicy stuff. So we'll use super hot chilies, right? So today I was saying I'm using a ghost pepper, but usually we just do a jalapeno for people. My favorite, I guess if I had to say a favorite, it'd be Thai chilies. I love them. I love the flavor of Thai chilies. We eat them. We just eat them raw in our family. They're delicious. They're really hot, but they're so good. The flavor of a Thai chili is so good. And remember, like if you have really stuffed sinuses or if you have a lot of lung congestion, the capsaicin the stuff that makes chilies hot, is very good to thin mucus. So if you have a stuffy nose, stuffy sinuses, or congested lungs, eat a chili, use some fire cider, okay? And it'll help to clear that up. Woo, delicious though. Okay, so here again, I have my jar, my quart-sized jar. I added about a tablespoon or a little bit over a tablespoon black peppercorns. I added about 2 thumbs, maybe a little more, of horseradish. I added about 2 thumbs of turmeric root. I added about 2 thumbs, thumb size, of ginger. I added some chili, hot spicy chilies. Just one, because that ghost chili is gonna be super hot, okay? I added about half of what I called a medium onion, but it might be a large onion. I added some fresh thyme and some dried rosemary. And now I'm adding some beautiful lemon slices, okay? Oh yeah, Gabriel, chili tippings. The original chili would probably be my favorite, but I can't get a hold of them like you can, my friend, down in the Southwest. Mariah is asking if she can add dried choke cherries. 100%. 100%. Put dried choke cherries, like put a choke cherry patty right here on the top, and all of those wonderful healing properties from the choke cherries will infuse into the vinegar. Not just from the fruit part of the choke cherries, but you can add the pits in there as well, especially the crushed pits, and it would be fantastic, okay? So I added my lemon cap to that. All right, and now what I'm gonna do, let's talk about apple cider vinegar for a second. Can you pass that one? This is Bragg's. It's sort of like the standard raw organic apple cider vinegar these days. Everyone likes to use Bragg's organic apple cider vinegar. It's become really popular, and it is good stuff, okay? Nothing against it. It's a little pricey, okay? So if you can't get a hold of raw organic apple cider vinegar made by Bragg's, you can absolutely just use whatever. This is the Natural Grocers brand, and this is already opened, so I'm gonna use it instead of my Bragg's. But this is great stuff too. It's raw and unfiltered. What does it mean, raw? When they say raw apple cider vinegar, it means it's not cooked, okay? So absolutely use whatever you can get a hold of, and whatever you can afford too. Making apple cider vinegar is not hard. My friend Ivy probably isn't on here tonight, but she actually made her own organic apple cider vinegar. They peeled and dried, they made a bunch of applesauce this year. They canned a bunch of applesauce. And so she took all of those cores and peels and put them in jars and made her own apple cider vinegar. You can absolutely do that, okay? And then you can use that to make your fire cider. Okay, a question from Marty. If you add elderberries, do you just add the dried berries? You can add dried, fresh, freeze-dried, doesn't matter. You could even just pour some elderberry elixir that you've already made into here, okay? If you're gonna use the elderberry elixir though, I'd probably wait until later, until you strain this, okay? Does the apple cider vinegar need to have a mother in it? No, not necessarily. If, just however it comes in the store is fine. Sometimes the one you'll get in the store will have a mother, and that's always really nice because you can keep that and make your own. But you don't have to have a mother to make apple cider vinegar either, although it does make the process a lot easier, okay? So can we review just one more time? Just because you guys, when it comes to botany, and even sometimes when it comes to cooking, a lot of times repetition is key. I know that critical thinking is super important, and that's why I tell you, come up with your own recipes and make it to your own tastes, but it's important to think about this. All we did was pour some black peppercorns on the bottom. Then we added our horseradish, just kind of rough chopped couple thumb sizes of turmeric, rough chopped couple thumb sizes ginger root. We added 1 super spicy hot chili and some dried Thai chilies just for the heck of it. We added probably 10 to 12 cloves of chopped garlic. We added half of a large chopped onion. We added some thyme that someone sent me and some beautiful dried rosemary. And then we just added a whole lemon on the top as a cap. And now I'm gonna pour our apple cider vinegar over top. Yes, I actually have friends who add goji berries to the fire cider. So yes, you absolutely can. You know, you can totally make it your own and add any berries that you want, you know? I mean, it's just kind of fun that way, but goji berries would be great in there. So I have a question from Jessica on here. It says, so I made some fire cider a little over a week ago. I put in whole garlic cloves and I just noticed that a couple of them look green. Is that bad? No. Blue, green garlic, it just means that the sun has gotten to them and it sort of, is it oxidation? Does anyone know that chemical process? I'm not sure, but I think it's oxidation. So it turns them kind of a green or a blue color. Totally fine, okay? And that goes for any of you guys, if you pickle garlic and it turns blue, it's still edible. It just looks weird, okay? All right, so voila, we have our beautiful jar of fire cider that I'm gonna set aside to infuse for a few weeks, couple months. If this sat on the shelf for 2 years, I would still eat it, okay? Now, what do you do with those vegetables later? We'll talk about that in a second. All right, here in a bowl, let's pretend, flash forward, this is like the cooking channel, right? So flash forward, we've waited 3 weeks and we're ready to strain our fire cider. I just got a bowl here, can be any bowl, doesn't have to be stainless steel like this one, but it can be. And some cheesecloth. You don't have to use cheesecloth, or you could double your cheesecloth if you want to strain it really well. That's up to you. You could just strain it through a colander. You don't have to, you know, don't stress. Use an old t-shirt if you want, okay? Lori is asking if I seal the jars. I do not. Cooking apple cider vinegar negates the, you know, it's raw. Which means it's not boiled and cooked, right? Which means that all of that good stuff that's in there, you know, all of the good stuff in the apple cider vinegar, you can actually kill it by heating it too much. So we don't cook or seal our jars, okay? All right, so here I have my apple cider vinegar that I made a few weeks ago, okay? I had to pre-open this a couple hours ago because it's tough to open sometimes. Okay. Oh my God, that smells really spicy. I put some dried red jalapenos, dried Thai chilies. Here I have my lemons, my ginger, horseradish, garlic. I even put some, see that green layer there? That's jalapenos. I have black peppercorns, rosemary, onion, okay? This jar actually did not have turmeric in it, and I'll tell you why. Is everyone listening? Because this is kind of important. My husband is allergic to turmeric, okay? And so are a lot, no, I can't say a lot. I have had about an experience of about 15 indigenous men being allergic to turmeric, and it actually caused making inflammatory conditions worse. Has anyone else had that issue? I've talked to maybe 2 other plant people who've had that problem, and it specifically has only been with indigenous men, not women, but indigenous men from all over the world. And so, like, for example, we actually found this allergy in our family because we were eating a sauce, like a peanut sauce that had turmeric in it. And it made him very sick, and it actually gave him a rash and everything. So so I actually made a turmeric-free batch for some indigenous friends of mine, okay? So I'm gonna just pour it into this bowl, into this cheesecloth. I don't worry about it too much. I don't worry about like straining everything out. I don't worry about it being cloudy, you know? I don't worry about any of that stuff. But what I do want to do is, you know, that lemon created a cap. So you can either put your knife in there and try to get that stuff out, or just reach in there with your hands and get all that stuff out. When I made this, I actually only had one big dried, like rock hard dried chunk of horseradish. So I just stuck the whole dried horseradish in there. no big deal, right? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, don't stress, don't worry, okay? Like, you know, use what you have, use what you like. Don't freak out about it. You have a bunch of dried rosemary, you know, use it. If you don't, no big deal, okay? Now, see this? Beautiful, delicious. I'm gonna squeeze that and try to get all of that vinegar out of there as much as possible. Here, can you lower my, just so I can show these guys. See that, guys? Try to just get as much of that vinegar out of there as possible. If you want to put this in your food processor, go ahead, blend it up, and then try to strain it that way. You know, whatever, no big deal. All right, I'm gonna strain this some more later. Can you grab me another bowl, please? I'm gonna strain this some more later, but for the sake of time on our workshop, I'll stop. Okay. I got some on my screen. You guys can't see it, but I can. All right, so look at that gorgeous fire cider. Oh my gosh. I could just keep it like this, okay? I could use this as an infused vinegar. I could use this in salad dressings. I could put this in a bottle, and like when we make bean soup, I love fire cider in bean soup, okay? I have a couple questions I'm gonna answer real quick. Where did I buy the jars? There's a severe jar shortage right now. I know there is. I've just had these jars for a really long time. We recently went into Menards. Was it Menards? Yeah. Menards, and they had jars for one day. Okay, so we bought as many as we could without taking them from everyone else. So, you know, we bought probably like an 1/8 of their stock. But it's because we make medicine to give to people. So I felt okay about that. But, you know, jars are super expensive right now. I saw 12 jars for $60 on some website the other day. It might've been Amazon or something. So, you know, yeah, not a great thing. I've heard that shaking the jar daily is something you should do. So sometimes what we'll do is we'll leave our jar of fire cider. Guys, look how pretty that is. Sorry. Sometimes we'll leave our jar of fire cider sitting on the kitchen counter, and I'll just tell my kids that every time they walk by it, flip it. You know, it doesn't have to be anything complicated. And you guys, if you forget, you put this at the back of a cabinet and you forget about it for 6 months, it's going to be fine. Okay. Shaking it is great. You know, it distributes the vinegar evenly in the ingredients, but it's not going to be too bad. If you notice, okay, let me show you guys something already in this fire cider that we made today. Already the level of the vinegar kind of went down and that lemon's on top. It's not going to hurt anything. If I wanted, I could just store the jar upside down, but you know, you can always just go through even a week later and add a little bit more vinegar to make sure everything is covered and immersed in the liquid. Okay. Don't freak out. It's vinegar, and the chances of this molding are super, super slim. Okay. Super slim. And if it molds, just spoon the mold off the top and keep going, okay? All right, so there we have that to answer that question. So yeah, we shake it sometimes, but we just let it sit. Thinking some watermelon juice would be yummy too. Yes, that would be delicious, and watermelon juice is great for your immune system. Okay. So we have our strained fire cider here. Like I said, you can just leave it like this if you want, but we're making fire cider. And if you want something that's really good for your lungs, really good for immunity, and really good, super good for coughs, you add raw honey, okay? This is some raw honey that we just got from some friends of ours sent it. It came from their hives. And we're gonna add this raw honey to our fire cider. Fire cider traditionally should be this balance of spicy, sweet, sour, okay? Spicy, sweet, sour, right? Because you get that spiciness from all the stuff. You get the sour in there from the vinegar. You get the sweet from the honey. But you don't have to add the honey if you don't want. If you would rather add pure maple syrup, after I ate that, well, after I stuck my tongue onto that ghost pepper earlier, I drank maple syrup. It really helped. If you ever drink, or I mean, eat a super spicy pepper, take a little sip of some pure maple syrup and it'll really help. But anyway, if you don't like honey, or if you don't have any, or if you are just a super pro syrup person because maybe you're Ojibwe and you know you're just pro syrup, pro maple, you could totally add maple instead of honey. Okay, this is also great for the immune system, great for your lungs. Pure maple syrup is wonderful lung support. Okay, all right, but we're adding honey. I have a friend who's asking about Osha honey, and it's also known as bare root honey. Right, with bare root or Osha root ground up and put into honey. And we have friends at Artemisia Herbs who send us Osha honey sometimes. We make it ourselves, but sometimes we just can't make the quantities we need. You can absolutely add bare root honey. Bare root honey to your fire cider. Osha honey would be fantastic, okay? Great for immunity, great for coughs and colds, great for lung support. You could totally add Osha honey. It's bare root Osha is precious, you know what I mean? And so it's hard to get a hold of, and you want to make sure that the people you get it from are harvesting it with respect and sustainability in mind, and with indigenous people in mind, right? So if you're not indigenous, it's really nice to leave populations of important plants for indigenous people as much as possible, okay? And that goes for bare root and Osha. So we use this a lot for people who need it, especially people who are COVID positive. It's really good for them right now. Stephanie is asking if birch syrup would work. Yes, birch syrup would be amazing. Sometimes we'll take birch syrup and we'll just infuse juniper berries or cedar into there and use that as a cough medicine. Birch syrup would be fantastic in fire cider, okay? I'm gonna start pouring this honey in here before I run out of time. So I am using, what is this? A pint of honey in here. You don't have to. I just know how sweet the people I'm giving this batch to, I know how sweet they like it. You could add a tiny bit of honey if you wanted. You could add more honey if you wanted. I like my elderberry elixir to be super sweet, but I don't like my fire cider to be super sweet, okay? So you can see I'm actually just taking my knife and stirring this around. It's not soup, so it's not that big of a deal, but use a spoon. Hey, I think you could grab a spoon for me. So you just want to stir it around until the vinegar and the honey are completely incorporated. The honey is incorporated into the vinegar, okay? Kim, I got that this Osha honey, this bare root honey, from Artemisia Herbs in Albuquerque. They are wonderful people. Not indigenous owned, but they supported us during the No Dapple fight. They sent us a bunch of medicine. And right now during COVID, they've sent us a bunch of medicine to hand out to people as well at a really good price. So Artemisia Herbs out of Albuquerque, okay? I can send you the name if you can't see that. They're wonderful people. I can send you that over Facebook as well. Okay, so I'm just gonna stir my fire cider, incorporate that honey into there, just until, you know, it's completely incorporated. And then I'm just gonna put, I'm gonna put this into bottles or jars or whatever. I do not refrigerate my fire cider, ever. Some people do, some people like to refrigerate it, but I don't, you know, I just never do that. Any other questions? Bare root, B-E-A-R, like the animal, rawr. Someone is asking. Also known as Osha, O-S-H-A root. Bare root is what most indigenous people call it. Incidentally, little piece of trivia, a lot of people call, there's a different plant that's called bare root up in Montana. Like it's Lomatium dissectum. Sorry, I was trying to think of the scientific name. Okay. Fire cider, Teresa is asking how long fire cider lasts. Fire cider will last a long time. It's apple cider vinegar and honey, right? Honey is a preservative, vinegar is a preservative. I have had fire cider. So someone told me my fire cider has like a blob in it, and I think maybe it grew a mother or something. I don't know. But I told her I would totally drink that. You know, I think she said hers was like 6 years old or something. I'm pretty adventurous when it comes to that, so I would drink that. I think most people say that fire cider keeps for about a year. Okay, whatever, but I certainly would never throw fire cider away, okay? Oh, Laura's asking about dosage. So that's a great question, okay? If I were just as a tonic, just as a daily thing, we do about a tablespoon of fire cider. We actually have little sort of shot glasses that we use, and we all, everyone in our household does a shot of fire cider every day as a tonic. It probably ends up being about a tablespoon and a half, okay, every day. If you are sick, you can actually divide that up or do a tablespoon 3 times a day. If you can't handle a tablespoon of fire cider, I mean, because it's so fiery and it's so vinegary, you can absolutely use a little bit less. You could, and you know, even kids, you know, it's really important. Like I have a lot of parents who tell me, I can't get my kid to take elderberry elixir. I can't get my kid to take fire cider. Start small, right? The first time that our 5-year-old had kimchi was when he was, Luke, are you over there? Yeah. 6 months old, 8 months old, 8 months. He was 8 months old. I was going to say 6 months old, but he was really little. He was 8 months old the first time he had kimchi, you know? And it was really mild kimchi. It wasn't really spicy. So, and now he eats spicier stuff than I do, and he's 5. So, you know, it just depends on what you expose your kids to and what you give them. You can change your palate, okay? For all of my friends who are on this webinar right now, and you don't like fire cider, or you don't like spicy, or you don't like things with a strong flavor, you know, like say celery. Some people don't like celery, that flavor of celery. You can absolutely, sorry, son, can you wait just a few minutes? Yeah. You can absolutely change your palate. Just expose yourself to a little bit of it every day. And I'm begging you to do that, right? Because our palates are so conditioned and so colonized to only want things that are sweet or salty that we don't eat anything else. We've forgotten about the benefit, the deliciousness, the flavor that bitter provides. I love bitter herbs, okay? And I eat them every single day. And it's so important. There have been studies. One of my friends, he wrote a book about it, actually. Can't remember the name of the book off the top of my head. But Sam wrote a book about the fact that oftentimes when we are craving sweet, we think we're craving sweet, we're actually craving bitter greens. There's actually data to back that up, okay? So the next time that, you know, you think you're craving a dessert, try to eat a salad instead and see if that takes that craving away. And hey, you have some fire cider that you can use as salad dressing, and that has a little bit of sweet in it anyway. Okay, so this is our fire cider. It is a combination of spicy vegetables and raw apple cider vinegar, and I added some raw honey, okay? Absolutely beautiful. And I'm going to show you guys like just how good this is. Sorry, can't resist. Oh my God, fantastic, fantastic. It's like I said, that balance of the sour and the sweet and a little bit of spice in this one. This one just had some jalapenos and some dried Thai chilies, so it's not all that spicy. But you know, you could make it a lot spicier. And even now, so I have another friend who makes fire cider, and then she adds a few tablespoons of sriracha. Why not? You know, that's her thing. Do your thing, okay? Make it your own, make it beautiful, make it something you love, and something that doesn't just heal you physically, but heals you spiritually and emotionally as well, right? I'm gonna smudge this fire cider for people before I give it to them. You know, I pray over stuff before I give it to people. You know, follow the protocols that were put in place by your ancestors, by the people around you. Okay. Any last questions before I let you guys go? I talked about the dosage. Oh, if using fire cider to treat sickness, or just to build immune systems, how much should we take daily? So we talked about the dosage. If you're just, you know, as a tonic, staying healthy, boosting your immune system, again, you know, tablespoon or so a day, tablespoon and a half. If you are trying to, if you're sick, if you're already sick and you're trying to keep your lungs clear or strengthen your lungs and clear up congestion, you could do a tablespoon 3 times a day. I mean, whatever you can handle, right? Okay. Oh, yep. And so Stephanie is saying, oh, you were going to show us a trick to peel garlic. And I almost forgot. Let me set my Fire Cider bowl down here. You know, I know that peeling garlic can sometimes be really difficult. This is some garlic our friend grew. So I'm just going to take the clove off. And all I do, guys, hey, can you grab a soy sauce bottle for me? Is I just take my garlic clove and I put my knife flat on top and I just smash. Okay, now not only does that make the garlic super easy to peel, look, that came all off all by itself, it makes it really easy to chop because it's already partially chopped, right? So there I have a chopped garlic clove in just a couple of seconds. You know, I have a friend who will take, and actually Luke does this, he'll take the cloves and put them in an empty jar like this, put the lid on. So this is another one. And this is good for large quantities. Shake it vigorously. Is that what you do? Okay. Sorry, I'm getting a show there. Okay. Shake it oh, I guess that kind of did work. I don't know. That didn't work as well for me. Oh, he said you have to shake it up and down. I'm not going to do that on camera. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh my God. So that totally, look at that, completely peeled clove of garlic, undamaged. That would be great for if you want to pickle whole cloves of garlic, right? That worked. Great job there, dear. Okay, so that's just a couple of tips on peeling garlic kind of easily. I'll have to show you guys my trick for chopping garlic. We don't chop garlic a lot in our house because we make kimchi, we make things like bulgogi, you know, which is a Korean meat dish. We need a lot of minced garlic, okay? If you want minced garlic super easy, take your whole garlic clove and get a bottle, like this is a bottle of soy sauce, right? That we refill and reuse, and just use the cap. This is like my mother taught me this. And like, look, you have a completely minced clove of garlic in 2 seconds, okay? And that's fantastic if you are mincing a bunch of garlic. I hate garlic presses. I think they waste a lot of garlic, so I don't ever use them, okay? Yeah, it's awesome, believe me. It's a lifesaver. You can do that same thing with ginger. Like if you're chopping ginger, use the top of a bottle and you can mince ginger in seconds, okay? All right, you guys, I'm so happy to know that some of you guys are gonna make fire cider. If you guys have any questions, absolutely send me a question on Facebook. You can email it to me at United Tribes Technical College. I just wanted to say, you know, give kudos to United Tribes Technical College. They're an amazing tribal college, you know, with the vast majority Indigenous students who come from all over, even from down in Mexico and up in Canada and up in Alaska, come to United Tribes. It's a great place to work and a great place to be, you know, and they like let me do stuff like this for you guys, you know. How cool is that? So anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me, and if you have questions about fire cider, let me know, and totally send me pictures of your fire cider when you make it, please. Okay. All right. Mwah. Love you guys. See you.